So let's kind of leap ahead and look at what's, it's clear that support is really important and there are still some gaps in terms of what we're providing for support for siblings. So let's look forward to what more can be done. Blake, what do you see as kind of important system and infrastructure changes that are necessary to ensure better recognition for support for young people, both at a young age and as they transition into adulthood, who are going through that sibling experience?
I think it's really critical that people become aware of available resources that can help alleviate a lot of the stress from just figuring it out on your own, because there's always someone that's walked through the shoes that you're about to be in, and there's a lot of organizations that have experience in providing better caregiving resources. A lot of those has been designed for elder care. And so making sure that we can retrofit some of those for the rare disease community and those that are younger, because it's not reinventing the wheel, it's just aligning it with um, kind of people that have similar challenges. They're just at a different age, and making sure that we're meeting them where they're at, and that we can personalize these tools and resources as best as possible. Our nonprofit's actually been really fortunate to just launch a partnership with a caregiving resource that I know can make a really big difference for our community. And we found this because I realized there was nothing like it. And because we have so much experience knowing the challenges that families are going through, I knew how to tailor this and design it in a way that can solve real problems for families today and add a lot of value to improve the quality of life for the family as a whole. And in doing so, that allows it to be much easier to enhance the quality of care for the specific your loved one. Um, but a lot of it, so like there's resources in general, but we need more funding for Medicaid to make sure that the state agencies that provide the that help screen and identify and source the caregivers, that they can be quality candidates that can be reliable and trustworthy. I know we ran into a lot of challenges because at $11 an hour in the state of Kansas, you're not going to get somebody that you want to leave your loved one with, and you rely on them to help with some of the most intimate things in your life. And so we had to step up and just figure out how to pay for better quality care on our own out of pocket, my family, and it made a drastic difference in the people that we could have that supported Ryan. But that shouldn't have to be the case because the funding's out there and there are people that are looking to work that have big hearts. We just need to make sure that we can give them the resources to make it fit for everybody.
That's a really critical point because one of the I think it was about 18, a chap that engaged with us in the report actually told us he was part of a big family, but because of the lack of funding to get any care in the home for his younger sister, the decision was made in the family level that his parents who could earn more money would both go out to work and he would sacrifice his kind of education and next steps to be the stay-at-home carer. So all of the siblings went out to work, the mom and dad went out to work, and he'd actually started university in engineering, but had given it up to become the home carer. And he had absolutely zero resentment towards that, was very kind of humble about it all. But nonetheless, that is a really significant impact on a young guy that could have a career ahead of him. And purely because of that lack of caregiving and lack of funding to prop that. So I'm really pleased you've mentioned that. I think that's an important point. Can you just expand a little bit on the work? I know your organization are doing this specifically. So can you kind of talk to us about what that is? Because I think this could be a really good model for other people to look at.
There's a lot of resources that are out there that are designed for the elder care and now custom tailoring that. And so, making sure that families can just have best practice guides, making sure that there can be an online platform where they can better manage the calendar of the individuals that provide the care, um, support to ensure that that you kind of your collection of resources can become readily available for all the people that are managing your loved one's care. Because so often, you're doing so many things already in your daily life that it's easy to lose track of what's the dosage of this medication? What type of dietary restrictions? If there's a fall, who do you call? All these things that if you have a caregiver come in and they don't have this experience and a challenge arises out of the blue, you can have a major setback. And it's just leveraging existing technology and custom tailoring that to the family's direct needs. And so we're really excited to kind of to help launch this and make it available to as many families as we can.
Yeah, it's
So
fantastic. It's a really wonderful initiative and hopefully something that will be, we can see more rolled out into other areas. And Rebecca, if I come to you from your perspective, thinking about maybe misconceptions of the experiences of rare siblings, what more do you think, if we're looking to the future, can be done in terms of kind of increasing awareness more effectively? Like what more can we do to make people more aware of what these challenges might be for siblings and how we can plug the gaps with some of the support?
I feel like it's just a matter of, as a sibling, you want to get more siblings involved, and it's kind of that just endless battle of trying to promote more things for siblings. You could share like panels like this. This could be really educational for people. Social media, advocacy groups. I also think it would be important to get more stuff into schools and workplaces and hospitals where the siblings sort of feel seen or heard, um, and just recognizing that whilst everyone's different, it affects everyone, maybe in the same way of the sense of their own emotions. I feel like we just need to build a supportive environment for everyone, because it can be very daunting for a sibling to say join a charity, join advocacy, and do all these things.
Did you feel that you had information available to you about groups that you could join and charities that were available to you? Like, was that something you felt confident going and looking for? Or was there a sense of, well, I shouldn't do that because actually it's my sibling that needs the support? Like, did you feel that that was okay for you to reach out for that kind of awareness and information?
Yeah, definitely. I felt very accepted by the charities. I felt very like I was at home, sort of thing, even though it wasn't about me, it was about everyone else. But they've definitely given me a sense of belonging with a sibling with a rare disease.
Really lovely to hear. And Rich, coming to you, what's kind of the role of society here? I mean, we're always talking, aren't we, about awareness within the greater community. What more do you think we can do in terms of that societal education to improve support for siblings and for the wider family as well, for that matter? And
Yeah, I think it's a couple things. I think the comment Blake said about $11 an hour for a caregiver is totally true. We face
yeah,
the same thing in upstate New York. I mean, you're gonna get $11 an hour worth of quality. And so I think that's a big thing because that was one of the biggest challenges we struggled with, is just finding just quality people to show up. I think at a bare minimum. Um, and I think also educating and enforcing legislation for accessibilities within the university and workplace setting is important. I think there's Americans with Disabilities Act for a reason. And I think in cases where it's cheaper to pay a fine than actually follow the law, I think that needs to change. So, I mean, the world's a fundamentally imperfect place, but I think small things can make a big difference in this community.
yeah. And much of it is already there, isn't it? Like you say, it's actually about it being enforced and people
Yeah,
knowing their rights and being able to access it, thereby taking away the need for siblings and families to be so proactive and all of the, to have to challenge everything from where the bus goes to,
yeah, yeah,
taking all of those little micro challenges out of the way so that maybe some of the bigger things don't seem so enormous when you're chipping away all these little things that, challenges in the way. Um,
yeah, yeah.
and Stefan, coming to you, obviously as someone who's working in a patient support organization, what do you see as initiatives either currently in place or things that could be developed that might be better for supporting siblings? And what role do grassroots charities like yourself play in developing those?
Like firstly, let's start. I think that the sibling topic is underrepresented because before you announcing the report, I didn't found any resources where you can read about siblings that are researchers done or information guides or something like that. So, and that's, let's say, the first step, as Blake mentioned, that there are guides that can be developed. So I think that we all can work on some guide that can be presented to the families. This is like, or to the siblings themselves, like how they can navigate and have the ease of life. Uh, Speaking from the patient organization perspective and also like from my personal experience, what I needed when I was younger is maybe psychological support. Is that you didn't have anyone to speak to that is uh, let's say dedicating person, an expert in the field, because neither my parents thought about it, nor any of the medical specialists that were treating my sister said like he should go because it's a sibling experience. Maybe he should, like, not just me but also my sister as well, like you should go to the psychologist and speak with them. So developing that kind of support, either being support groups that can be organized by patient organizations and gathering the siblings and discussing what is on their mind, let's say, what are the worries, and sharing what with the others that have similar experiences as well, and being there to know that there is somebody who has experienced similar things, but also can support you if you have bad day, bad week, or you don't know like how is there a situation with your sibling that maybe the condition is worse on something bad happened. So definitely like working on both ends, advocating on a policy level that there is psychological or psychosocial support for the siblings, and like that is obligatory, let's say, and developing support groups within patient organizations, and maybe putting a focus on the further like future policies that can be developed, like national plans or programs where you can include the siblings as well, that it's not just about the patients and the parents, but also include the siblings into those policy discussions and topics, and have more like researches done about the sibling experience.
Yeah, absolutely. And like Rebecca said, I guess it's creating safe spaces where, it feels like there's a sense of belonging, and mental health is such an important point. And we've got some questions around that actually. So it's probably a good time to segue into the questions because we've got quite a few here. So I want to try and get through as many as we can. So we've got here, well, somebody says, I've just checked, and there's very little UK research on the mental health impact of SIBS for those with a rare disease. A recent review produced by a couple of studies. I know Genetic Alliance looked into this, but nothing's published. Perhaps we need to lobby for research funding. Yeah, absolutely. I think we're all agreed on that. That's a key area, and it's disappointing that there is nothing there. I should say that the report that we did before, I think Becky's dropped it in the chat. So if anyone wants to pick that up, they can from there, which would be great. But just to your point there, we need to be more work on this mental health side, and it probably is going to take some lobbying for that. So yeah, just in there. Someone said here, does the panel feel that adopting a younger child who it turns out has a rare disease, does this add additional pressures on a sibling relationship? Oh, I don't know if does anyone have a perspective on that? How that, anyone want to add anything to that? It's probably a difficult question to ask. It's very specific, but I guess it's like it's all down to the parenting in terms of how that's integrated. You all have talked very eloquently about how you didn't have that sense of burden or responsibility. It was very organic. So I guess that's part of that. Possibly a difficult one to answer, but did anyone have anything they wanted to say to that? No, okay, let's move on from that then. Here's a really interesting one here. How do I approach my older sister to ask her what it's like having a younger brother? And I think this is from the younger brother. So asking her, his older sister, what it's like to have a younger brother with a rare disease. Has anyone had that conversation where their sibling with a rare disease has asked them or approached them?
I haven't had that situation as such, but I've definitely gone to my sister and said, how is it with me being such a big advocate for you, and how does it feel that you've got this condition and I don't? We've definitely had them conversations, but I think it's important to ask because you can get yourself so worked up in your own emotions, thinking like feeling guilty as such. So I think it's a definitely an important question to ask. Just I wouldn't make it formal, so I just asked her in the car on the way back from uni. Just ask it at a time when it feels right for you.
I think that's where all of these sort of conversations happen, isn't it, in the car?
Yeah.
I'll never forget when my children were in the car when they were very little, and my son, who has a rare condition, just said to me, "Why did you make me with this and my brother without?" So these are where they pop up. But it's interesting that you made that space to have that conversation. You felt that was an important thing to do. So yeah, thank you for sharing. Just a comment here from someone said, "This is amazing. You should all be proud of yourselves. I'm a mum of rare with 3 older siblings. Yeah, so great." And she's just talking about the complexity of the sibling dynamic. So yeah, I think it's being a sibling is difficult at the best of times, isn't it? And it brings up so many different emotions. So and another comment here just saying she's really proud. Let's just want to see what else I can get to. Oh, did any of you deal with kids bullying because of your rare sibling, and how did you deal with that? Really interesting conversation, because I think it's almost impossible to get through secondary school without some level of that. Has anyone got any experience they'd like to share in that in terms of how they dealt with it, perhaps on behalf of their sibling?
I mean, I didn't have somebody bullying me, but somebody, it's like at the end, it turns out to be a funny story that somebody took my sister's backpack in the high school, and the person didn't want to give it back, and I stepped in and took it from that person and said, you like don't mess with my sister or I'm gonna beat you up next time. And at the end, it turns out that my sister liked that guy, and she was like furious at me, like, "I like that guy. Now you ruined everything." So it's like it's not, let's say, a normal bullying situation, but it was, let's say, funny thing happening
Yeah.
between them. But I would say, like, at least regarding my sister, I didn't see or myself anyone bullying her or me because she has a rare disease. Like people are mostly wanting to help and to support you, not other way around, like bullying you or trying to say it's like that you're not worth or something like that.
And sometimes maybe it's more means more for the sibling than it necessarily does for the child with the rare disease. I know my youngest son certainly gets more prickly about comments than my son with the condition does. It, he just lets it wash over him, whereas his brother's ready to kind of go to war over it. Is that how you felt, Rich? Have you had those kind of experiences?
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say there was never really any like bullying. It's more so like, I mean, this is years ago, but like, you go out and you get the looks kind of thing.
Yeah.
I was way more sensitive to that than he was. And I think I'm a lot crazier than he was. But yeah, I mean, I think it was worse in a small town than it was in a bigger city. For sure.
Yeah. So we've got another question here is, how did you stay involved with your siblings in your teenage years when life gets busy and your priorities change? Anyone want to speak to that? I mean, maybe Blake, this is something you've got experience, because I know you went away and then kind of came back. Is that, something that you could talk to there? So
For me, it was I was just really fortunate because Ryan was 7 years older than me. So at when I was 16 and kind of learning how to just being able to hang out with the older guys, I wanted to hang out with them and they embraced me. And, it's just finding common interests and making sure nothing feels forced.
Yeah.
Ryan and we bonded over music and movies and everything you could imagine, just like any sibling should, even if we can't, you can't go on a run with me or something. It's, I think it's just finding common interests to make sure that you're not only acting like the disease is this thing that defines you. There's a lot of life that can be experienced in beautiful ways, and making sure that you the disease can just take a back step, and you just navigate around it to make the most of things.
I think that's a really important point to end on, isn't it? That preserving that sibling relationship at all costs is really, really important, because that is first and foremost. And I think, we've got loads of comments there and we're just not going to get to them all because I'm really mindful of time. So what we will do for anyone that's asked a question that we haven't got to, we will put it to the panel afterwards and get some responses to get back to everyone, which will be fed through the link that you signed up to. Lots of really great comments there from people who really appreciate you sharing your story, as do I. I think it's just so great to be able to have this conversation. I think before we close, what I do want to also say is, and it's really important to acknowledge that, just leading on from what you said there, Blake, that rare disease doesn't define our lives, and that, while it's wonderful that all four of you have gone on to do really great things in terms of advocacy and research, we've got super siblings in all sorts of different areas, and it doesn't have to lead to a career in advocacy. I think that's an important thing to say. It doesn't lessen the impact or any of that sibling support for the great many siblings that don't go on to have a career in advocacy. So I just want to kind of acknowledge those siblings as well, and say that we really advocate for them, and their stories are equally as important. I'm infinitely impressed by all of the work that you guys all do. I think it's just really amazing. It certainly, as a parent, is really inspiring to see what wonderful relationships you have with your siblings and have had with your siblings. I think as parents, you always have that sense of, are you doing the right thing? But clearly all of your parents have been doing really wonderful jobs in cultivating those really special sibling relationships. So I really appreciate you all for sharing those. Just going to wrap up there and say a huge thank you to you all. Also, obviously, a big thank you to our sponsor, Alexion, for keeping this conversation going. Just to reiterate, do pick up the sibling report from the chat there. It's very much our hope that people will use the recommendations that are set out in there to inform initiatives, to inform further conversations. So feel free to take that, use that within your organisations. In addition to the webinar, we are going to be dedicating our spring edition to the topic of rare siblings. So there'll be some features from some of our panelists today. And again, we really want to help, hope that drives further progress and conversation. Thanks to everyone that's joined us live. The sessions will be available in a couple of weeks from our resources page at rarerevolutionmagazine.com. So feel free to share those to anybody who wasn't able to join today. And shortly there'll be some contacts coming up on the end screen. Please do reach out to us if you've got any further comments or questions for the panelists, and just to give us any feedback. We always love hearing from everyone. So thank you all very much and have a great rest of your day. Take care.